this year, this legislative session, I felt like they cared more about potholes than children. And it's 2 agents per boy. And the agents look at them, and they're big, and they said, well, if you act right, you can play video games. Or if you give us any trouble, we have permission and we have authority to tase you or to zip tie you. I don't know if I would call myself necessarily a whistleblower, but I mean, I am definitely called to shine a light to the shadows. We all are. All of us as believers are. And I say that the best disinfectant is sunshine. Shine a light. And we're not just shining a light and revealing it. We're also writing legislation to try to fix it.
Welcome to the 1334 podcast. Today, Kitty Mayo from the nonprofit Georgia Protective Parents joins me to talk about what is happening in the family courts in Georgia. Before we talk about the Georgia Protective Parents, I want to understand the problem. So what is happening in family courts that caused you to start this organization in the first place?
The family court system as a whole in the state of Georgia is anything but protective of children. It's actually abusive. It causes more trauma and more abuse for our children, and it drains parents. It's not protecting anyone. And there's also, most people don't even realize there is family court in Georgia. 50% of marriages sadly end of divorce. So the family court, that's 50% of those cases, those are all in family court. The divorces, anything to do with child custody or alimony, anything like that is all family court. I am watching case after case after case of judges just handing children to the abusive parent over and over again. People don't think, a judge would never do this or that. Oh, yes. And it's, there's a lot of compromised judges, and then there's some judges that just aren't informed. We have got to do better. By helping our judges be able to make better protective decisions. And it's a mess. Our guardian ad litem system is horrific in our state. It's not that the guardians themselves are all bad. It's not that at all. But our system is bad. Guardians in our state, guardians are the ones that are the voice of the child, and they are the eyes and ears of the court. And they don't even are required to have a license in our state. Goodness sakes, a real estate agent has a license, a pediatrician has a license, a psychiatrist has a license. And so if you act inappropriately in your line of work, that license can be revoked. But not a guardian. There's not a license requirement. When you first become a guardian, you do have to do training at the very, very beginning. But as my good friend and attorney told me, she said, I became a guardian in 2007, went through the initial training process, and she said, but the state of Georgia has not required me to take 1 minute more training since that time. It's 2026. Now, she has put herself through it because she wants to be better at her position in helping children. But it's not required by our state at all. Not a license ID, not a license, not... it's just scary. And so you have these guardians going into homes and people don't even know who they are. Some of them are, a majority of guardians are attorneys. And so, but if you have a complaint against the guardian, which a lot of cases do, very few guardians are doing the due diligence that they're supposed to do to make sure the child is with the correct or safe parent. And so what happens is, and then they become biased and the report becomes just a hot mess, for lack of a better phrase. And And so what's happening is that there is no oversight over this in our state. And if I was to complain about my guardian, the only place that I have to go is Yelp. That we got to do better than that. There needs to be a board where the complaints go, where the board oversees any type of, if there's any, misbehavior or anything with the guardian, similar to the bar association. But you can go to the bar association with your complaint, but 99% of those just die, because the bar is meant to protect attorneys. It's not meant to protect your children or you. And so that it's our system needs a lot of help and a lot of work. Those guardians are also not just on family court cases, but in foster care. So we have got to do better. When I was working at the state capitol, I would hear legislators speak all the time, like, we need to make sure our judges have the best tools possible to make the best decision for our children. Well, a trained guardian would be the very best tool that we could give our judges, because that would be the safest thing, and it would help our guardians become more trauma focused and be able to make the decision right the first time, and putting the child with the correct parent or the safe parent. And therefore that just saves time and money from the state and trauma from our children, getting it right the first time versus going back to court over and over again. And it's just a revenue stream, and it's nefarious.
How did you get started in this?
Unfortunately, our family was involved in family court case that lasted years and years and years. And my two stepsons came forward they came forward to us about being sexually abused by a family member. And that ended up being we had the SVU, we had detectives, we had DFACs, we had everyone in our house within 48 hours. And so because that person was not convicted, that person comes back with a vengeance, just angry, and then tries to get custody of the children. And so took us back to court, and through that court, this particular individual decided that it would be a good idea to, they also wanted the children to go to a program called Family Bridges. It is a reunification camp. It is based in Canada, a foreign entity, and they come over from Canada and set up shop in Airbnbs and hotels. And this parent wanted my stepsons to go to this program. And through the knowledge that I've learned from that program is why I got involved doing, and I can talk about that program a little bit later, but that's what started me in this.
Yeah. So what happened with your sons?
So the parent took us back to court, and we had stacks and stacks of evidence. We had all their counselors in court testifying, begging the judge to not even allow the children to be with this person, to have any visitation. The counselors were even suggesting, like, maybe just texting, that would be great. That they just knew it would be very traumatic for the children to be reintroduced to this person. And the children were not recanting any of their abuse stories. They were like, no. As my older stepson put it, he goes, I know what happened to my body. I know what happened. And they were 8 and 10 when they reported the abuse. But by the time we got through the family court system and we were thrown right back in the criminal court system, but thrown right back into the family court system, they were 15 and 17. So they were, older and could hold their own. And they asked the judge, please no. Please don't, and we don't want to. And the judge goes, no, you're going to do this, and this is what's best for you. And it was a Gwinnett County judge, and she did not She ignored all of our experts. She ignored the children. She ignored us. She threw out all the evidence and said, no, this is what they need. And it's a program that called Family Bridges. It's a reunification camp. And there's other reunification camps, but this was the particular one that she wanted to use. It's also the most expensive, and that you're targeted. Like my husband was asked in court, how much money do you make, in front of everyone, because they wanted to know if you can afford the program. And the program is $100,000 for 1 week. So that doesn't stop there, unfortunately. And what happens is the children were dropped off at the courthouse, and they were picked up by 4 transport agents. And it's 2 agents per boy. And the agents look at them, and they're big, and they said, well, if you act right, you can play video games. Or if you give us any trouble, we have permission and we have authority to tase you or to zip tie you. And this is threatening to tase and zip tie a child. And these children are already scared and frightened. They're taken, and they can't see their dad. They don't have any communication devices of any type on them. They're taken in the car. They're taken to a hotel. They're separated. They're crying. And they tell, then the transport agents, each transport agent takes a bed, and each boy is forced to sleep on the floor of the hotel. The next day, they go to California, where this program is going to set up a camp. And when I say camp, it's not what anyone is imagining. There's no arts and crafts. There's no other kids. There's no archery. None of that. And so it is a week long. And it's a week of watching propaganda films. And these films are all about how, oh, I know you're saying that you were abused, but that abuse never happened. That abuse is a false imprint that was put on into your brain by your dad and your stepmom. It never happened. Children are told that their memories are what they call false memories, that they're not real at all, and that it's all in their head, and that this parent that they think really abused them is really the good guy, and the parent that was resisting, the one that is we call the safe parent, they're the problem. They're really your problem in your life. And the method is called, and it's used in a variety of programs. Hang on. Oh, bless me.
Bless you.
The program is, it's used in residential treatment centers for youth. It's used in wilderness camps. It's used in reunification camps, and I like to call it MK Ultra for kids because it's complete mind control and it alters the brain. And it's what is called the break and build method. They break the bond that they have. They put a fracture in there, that the bond that they had with their safe parent, by starting that separation process. And then they're scared and they're traumatized by this camp. And then it forces them to look to their abusive parent at the only one that can save them. And it forces a bond, and it forces a trauma bond. And so this is intentional with the reunification camps. Wilderness camps are just same thing, which is the break and build. Wilderness camps will remove a child from both parents altogether. Some parents choose to send their child to a wilderness camp to get that attitude adjustment, and it's just they're putting their child in harm's way. At least over 450 children in the U.S. have died in wilderness programs. So even if a state may not have a wilderness camp, judges in your state can issue them right now, today. A Gwinnett County judge just so happens to be the same one that was in our case. has issued an 11 and 12-year-old child, through the advice of the guardian, to go to a wilderness camp. And these children have told their guardian, we were abused. And the guardian says, no, you weren't. You just have a bad attitude, and wants to send them to this camp. This camp has had horrible lawsuits the length of my legs, and it is where children are malnourished, they are dehydrated, they have to look for their own shelter. This is like fourth and fifth graders that she wants to send them. They're kids, and it's abusive. You have to hike like 10 miles, and then you got to survive. And these children are just it's just causing more trauma. And then these programs, and then of course they keep billing the parents. In this particular case, the father is begging please don't send them, and the judge is even forcing the father to sell his home in order to pay for this camp. That should not be allowed in any state at all. I would like to see these wilderness programs completely annihilated all across the U.S. To make sure it's not even an option. But at a minimum, our organization has written legislation to ban for judges to be able to not send children to a wilderness program and to a reunification camp. So we want to take that off the table as an option for judges to do. In my opinion, it protects judges because they do not know what they're doing. They do not know the harm. Should I think there should be some more training? Judges should know and hear from the survivors, not from those who are benefiting financially in these programs, but from survivors about what's really going on. That wilderness camp that the judge has just issued these two children to, that there was just a sexual assault lawsuit filed this month. I'm like, does no one know how to use Google? I mean, it's a simple Google search, and all of that information came up to me. So they don't know how to do that? Or could they possibly be getting kickbacks? Just allegedly, just kind of throwing out that idea that all of us advocates feel in our bones. I believe there needs to be a huge investigation into this throughout the U.S. and every single state, because this is a scam, to put it lightly. So,
can you explain a little bit about what the kids go through at these wilderness camps?
The wilderness camps, they're atrocious. Like I said, the reports are saying that these kids are forced to hike, miles and miles and miles, and then they're dehydrated, and then they'll have this much water, and then they have to just barely have anything to eat, like barely handed anything, and then they have to find their own little shelter and survive. They have to carry a backpack with everything in it that basically is half of their weight, actually sometimes more. The backpacks can weigh 80 pounds. One child, this latest report is this child lost 40 pounds in 44 days. Not normal. And just that's abusive to your body, and especially a child that's growing. So yeah, and they're not equipped. These kids that the camp can be run by someone who's 18, just running, these kids through wilderness. It's awful. It's awful. The survivors are coming forward in the masses. There is our organization was just really blessed to be able to be backed by another nonprofit called Unsilenced Now, and they're doing phenomenal work, and it is regarding the children that are in the like Paris Hilton, who was sent to a residential type treatment type institutional school. Those are horrible. Those are absolutely horrible. And she just helped shut down one in Provo, Utah. Took her 6 years. Someone with her platform took her 6 years. these kids there are getting assaulted, sexually assaulted. They're strip searched. That's not supposed to be allowed on a child. They're drugged. They're force fed. So, and if you gag, this is going to sound incredibly gross, but I need to make sure you understand the big picture. If the child gags and throws up in their plate, they force them to eat that, vomit it all. And it's part of breaking them down to nothing. Shame is a big part, and fear is a big part of their therapy. And they shame them. They call them names. If a child was maybe caught kissing somebody else, they'll have to wear a sign that will say whore or something like that. What? And so it's all about coercion and shame. And we should not have any therapy program for anyone that involves shame, fear, or coercion.
This sounds like something from, I don't know, 100 years ago, and they were, sounds like history. It doesn't sound like it's happening now,
No, it's happening now. There's shows on, there's one show on Netflix called The Nightmare Upstairs. I do not like how it was edited. The producer took a little bit too much liberty, but the children are speaking out about that. That's about a reunification camp. The second one, I know that there's one called The Program that is also about something similar. Paris Hilton did one called I Am Paris, and it talked about her experience in the residential treatment school. And what's happening is, I don't blame parents 100% on this, because the schools will lie to the parents. Their brochures are glossy and beautiful and perfect, and saying we have equestrian therapy and the children are going to be doing this and that. And meanwhile, the child can't even call home. And if you call home, you're told, you're given a script and you're given 3 minutes, and they want the child to also act out intentionally during those phone calls, because they want the parent to say, oh, they need to stay. We're making progress, because they want the check from the parent to keep the child there. And so it's intentional. So parents, this is how a lot of this is coming to light. Parents will say something like this recently happened with, these people that are out of this program, that a lot of them are speaking, they're all adults. And so one of them was sitting around a table with her family and saying, and the parents were like, yes, we got this and this from the school back then. And she goes, what are you talking about? I was drugged in my room and couldn't call you. And the school would tell them, we told her to call, but she just refuses. She's still so angry. She's drugged in a room. So parents are not being told the truth. So any parent that is struggling with what to do with their child or something, please just Google and Google and Google again, and you will find reports that you are responsible for finding. But as far as the family court system, no judge should be ordering any child into a wilderness program of any kind. And we've got to do better. We've got to do better.
How are your boys now?
They're healing. They're healing. They're doing well. They have not been the same since they've been able to come home. That it alters you. They become different. We're different going through this process. Our family dynamics are different. It's the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and that's exactly what happened. This whole entire program is extremely nefarious and demonic, and it's not good for any child. And the program, once they went to California, then they show up and they're at this place, so they're already traumatized by how they got there. And they walk in and they see a panel of the experts, one of which had his license revoked, by the way, and yet here he is, and he's there, and then our boys were there, and they were already traumatized, and they're seeing, this relative for the first time in 7 years, and that too is traumatic in itself. And one of the boys told me later, he goes, I sat there and cried, and this relative just sat up there on the panel and just laughed and laughed and laughed. He got angry. He told me he broke a table. He was upset. And then they showed them a week of propaganda and about to tell them and get in their head about their abuse. And after that, then they tell them, well, all right, well, if you don't participate, if you don't go and smile for that picture, and you don't, and tell them you love them, or to fake the restoration, they tell them to fake it till they make it, and which is telling this parent that they love them and that they're sorry. And it's just so cruel. And if they don't do that, they go, we have the authority to send you to a wilderness camp. And that's why I also started getting involved in understanding wilderness camps, because it's connected. And so they'll say, you have the authority to send you to a wilderness camp. And so the children are like, what? And then they tell them, well, all right, so now you're going to go on vacation with this other parent. And they're like, well, we'll make the best of that. And then they're like, but then you're going to have to go live with them for 90 days and not have any contact with your father and your stepmother and any of your friends, family, community, church. It's all blocked and shut down. And so they're like, what? Why? And it's the break and build. They're going to break that emotional connection that they have with their entire community. And they have been up and removed from and replanted. So they were in the country and replanted 2 hours away in a huge city, one of the largest schools in Georgia. It was an enormous adjustment for them. They were sophomores, and one was a sophomore, one was a junior. Awful. It was just awful. And they had to go through all of that, had to form, thank goodness they had each other, but then they had to form to find friends and survive, and it was awful for them. And so through that process, they make, in the meantime, the program forces my husband and I to go through what they call an aftercare specialist. And they charged us like $1,000 a week to go through that. And where they just want to make sure that we say in all the right words. And we are just like, oh, okay. And we start to see this and start reading more online. It's a setup. It's a way for them to make more money, and it's a way for them to draw out this process for these kids to completely go with this parent. And it's also set up to, it's called a custody switch, and it's also forces us to write the child a letter, an apology letter. And in that apology letter, we basically have to say, I'm sorry we lied. I'm sorry that never happened. I'm sorry that we kept you away from this wonderful, wonderful parent. And if you don't say something that atrocious, fabricated, then they say, well, then you're not ready to see him. You're not ready. And the child's not ready. You're dangerous. You're dangerous. I wish I was making this up, but yeah, that's the program. And they single out very specific individuals. That may be part of the reason why this has stayed hidden for so long. We were able to trace back to at least 2009 that this has been going on in our state. Our governor has known. They definitely know. The Attorney General, I've spoken to him to his face. He has known. Lord knows our Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, knew. And so they knew. They never did anything about it. because this is a very lucrative program. My husband has estimated that it's about $1 billion a year business. And so now I'm speaking up. I'm rocking that apple cart to make sure that the public is very well aware that this is going on with our children in this state. And we have got to come together as parents and grandparents to help stop this, because it's going to take a village of all of us to get this stopped for our kids. Our children are having enough mental health crisis as it is without adding things like this onto their lives.
Yeah.
And it's atrocious. And so I got involved with, through the process, Anita, I'm jumping ahead. Through the process, it caused so much stress that all of my hair fell out, every single bit of it. I was wearing wigs, and I checked myself into a mental hospital for 3 days. I had never been on this side of needing help. My father's a pastor. I'm a women's minister. I was a women's minister. I am a former children's pastor. I've never been on this side of it. It was so humbling. But it is also what I kind of needed to help break down the people pleasing that I had within me for God to build up. And so God used that, allowed that breaking, but it's also He rebuilt me brick by brick. And I am nothing like the woman I was before this happened. And I needed to be this person in order to bring change, in order to bring and call this out. I know I have been called to call out the shadows, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm sounding the alarm. And that's why I started our nonprofit, and we write legislation and we advocate for the good legislation that protects children in our state. We don't care about taxes and potholes and the cost of living. It's not that we don't care. It's just that it's not our lane. We stay in our lane, and our lane is strictly about the children in our state. We mostly speak out about family court. We're the only advocacy group that advocates up at the Capitol regarding family court. We're it. And so I wrote a bill called Ethan's Law, and it is banning reunification camps for our state, and also to ban the separation of the safe parent and the child, to stop that process. That was in 2025. No, right? Yes, in 2025, it passed in the House twice, and it passed in the Senate once. But unfortunately, the lieutenant governor would not allow it to have that one more vote in 2025. So we started all over this session, not all over, but we started the process again with the legislation, and the lieutenant governor held it again. And when he was asked, why did you hold it? He said, well, the attorneys didn't like the language. We're not asking attorneys. They're the ones making money off of this, off the backs of our children's traumas. How about you talk to child advocates? How about you talk to survivors? How about you talk to trauma-informed counselors? But no, he wanted to talk to the Bar Association. And so we were very vocal about his behavior and his choices. And this is his legacy. Because he did not allow it to pass, more children have been put into these programs. 2 of them contacted me once they got out of it, very traumatized. And theirs ended up being a Hague case and had to go be sent to another country altogether to live with their other parent, another country. And our administration has known. I am thankful that we're now in the middle of getting a new administration, because this new administration, they are now informed, because I have made sure that they know. And I have been trying to work with both sides. We're in the governor's race. We have Keisha Lance Bottoms and we have Rick Jackson. I have been trying to get a meeting with Keisha Lance Bottoms, a phone call, something with her team for over a year. I haven't heard anything. I would like to. I think she'd be good to work with. Rick Jackson picked up the phone and called me. He said, Kitty, he goes, if Burt Jones drops this bill, he goes, which he should not, but if he drops this bill and he doesn't allow it to be finished this year, he said, as governor, I will pick up the ball and I will run with it and I will make sure these programs are out of our state. So is it an empty campaign promise? I don't know, but I'm going to hold him accountable for that. I mean, and he was a foster child, so he understands how broken our system is. And so we're hoping to definitely be able to help maybe move the needle with whoever is in the governor's mansion. We're also going to have a new lieutenant governor. And that is a very important role. As as I explained, they were able to hold the bill twice, 2 years. And that's the power of the lieutenant governor. So we're fighting to get this changed in Georgia.
So when were your boys able to come home?
Both boys, the program did not allow us to have any communication with the children because we were dangerous, and did not allow us or any of the family members, including my aging father who was in his 90s, and nobody could have contact with them. And so the oldest, we weren't able to see or talk with him for a full year. And so the 1 minute after midnight, he came home and he was out of there. And then the youngest, we weren't able to see or speak with him for 3 years. And that was very damaging to all of us. And so he came home like 1 minute after midnight. And he said at the time, and I'm quoting him, that he left his captivity. That's a horrible way. This is what happens when the government is trying to repair relationships. The government has no place. No place. Trying to force children to reunite. I see it in the foster care system. I see it in the family court system. Our government is extreme overreach in this area. Extreme. It's all in the name of in the best interest of the child, and it's nowhere near their best interest. And we have to do better than this. I mean, I don't have necessarily the answers, but I can point out the problems and what's really going on.
Yeah.
So,
kind of the not necessarily, but sort of the whistleblower mindset, where it's like, hey, your story matters, so you're telling it. I mean, the Bible says there's freedom in your testimony, Yes. So in your experience... They were saved
by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In your experience, where is the family court system breaking down?
Where is the breaking points in the system? I think the overreach of thinking that we know best, even though we have no training and we're not trauma informed, we know best what's for you. Everybody is on a power trip, that they have all this power and all this authority, and it's there's not a lot of oversight at all. And it's not working. It's not working at all. Children are literally being taken from a very protective parent. Unfortunately, majority of that has been mothers by our statistics. This is not a gender issue. I always like to say evil doesn't care if you're male or female. This is a good versus evil problem. It's not a dad versus mom problem. And but our statistics are showing that a majority of this does happen to mothers. We work real close and real well with a group called Georgia Coalition Against Domestic Violence, as they have a lot of statistics about abuse in the home, and unfortunately these kids are being removed. And so what happens is when a parent reports the abuse, that parent becomes the target, and there's a lot of retaliation because the other parent is not fighting for the child, they're fighting for their reputation. Yep. Because that's what is more important to them, and they want to prove this other parent is wrong.
Do you have a story? I know you spend a lot of time at the Capitol. Is there a story from the Senate or Capitol that really stands out to you that you want to share?
There's a lot of stories. I'm up there a lot, and I would say one of the things that was amazing to me and not upsetting, was just amazing, is that they didn't even know there was such a thing as family court. I had to educate them on family court. I mean, we're talking people with a lot of education, and they still didn't know. I spoke with several of them in the Senate who were attorneys, and they had no idea this was going on. So a lot of attorneys are not even aware of what's going on. So our legislators aren't aware of what's going on. And so I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't know if I would call myself necessarily a whistleblower, but I mean, I am definitely called to shine a light to the shadows. We all are. All of us as believers are. And I say that the best disinfectant is sunshine. Shine a light. And we're not just shining a light and revealing it. We're also writing legislation to try to fix it. Is that always the answer? Not always, but it is a spiritual issue. We have a nonprofit. We have a board. Majority of the board members do not believe like me. That's intentional. We want a board member. We want our board to be very well-rounded. We did not go out to form a Christian organization. I am, as the founder, but I wanted it to be very broad, and I want, because that is what our family court system looks like. Yep. And so I wanted it to look like that. And but I mean, I approach everything with a biblical mindset and a biblical worldview, but I don't expect board members to hold the same beliefs. I mean, I respect their beliefs, but I don't we don't hold them all. There's male and female, and there's people of different professions and different belief systems. And we even have, mixed parties, because this is truly a bipartisan issue. Children are bipartisan. They're not a party. Yeah. They don't care, and so that's a big issue.
Can you tell me a little bit about the legislation that you've gotten pushed through and some of that you're having go through in January?
Yes. So Ethan's Law did not pass after 2 years of working our absolute behinds off because of Burt Jones, unfortunately, and his leadership. But so we have to start all over with that in January. We do have a senator who's going to carry that for us, and they reached out to us, and we're very thankful. We got nothing done last session. I called it a dumpster fire, but apparently I must have moved the needle in some way, because this time last year I couldn't get a single phone call or email returned from any senator or House member. And this year, not only are they responding to me, but I already have 3 bills already being carried that will be carried at start in January. So that's something. I know I moved the needle. We also made sure people understood what was going on under the Gold Dome with, the lieutenant governor's leadership. I'm like, there was an election. I believed it was my responsibility to inform the voter of what we witnessed as child advocates. We didn't talk about if we liked him, didn't like him, what he wore, his kids. I don't care. I stuck with the topic of this is what happened with our legislation and how his team was responding to us. I kept the topic very straightforward. But anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, you're good. What changes do you believe would make the biggest difference for children's safety?
I mean, if I'm understanding your question, I mean, I would like family court system to be completely annihilated and rebuilt. I mean, but no one's asking me. But I mean, I would like to see it, completely be rebuilt brick by brick. Mm-hmm. There's got to be so much change to it. I would tell you this legislation this year, this legislative session, I felt like they cared more about potholes than children. And there has not been a family court bill passed at all. But I also know that our organization is the only organization up there that is lobbying and writing legislation strictly for family court. I do have 2 bills that have some intersectionality with the foster care system. So I am working with foster care advocates on that because I want to make sure that is represented well. Because I'm not going to ever pretend I know anything about the foster care. I do not. And so I bring in my advocates that are foster care, very well educated and deep in that, to help with my process through that. We work together as a team. And that's, yeah. And we're all volunteers.
Yeah.
We're all volunteers. We do it for free for our state, for our children. It's what we're all called to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the Family Bridges?
Family Bridges it was ran by a man named Randy Rand. Randy Rand had his license taken away when he was in California by Kamala Harris when she was the Attorney General. So it's been going on a while. Mr. Rand starts this program, calls them workshops, because that's what con artists tend to do. They'll rename something and they spin it. So if you have and I really hope I don't offend a name of a company out there, but if you have ABC Plumbing Company and they end up being, a shiesty corporation with lawsuits, they'll just rename to 123 Plumbing Company so they can't be traced. That's exactly what Family Bridges did. They just rebranded. That's why in legislation you have to spell it out what they're actually doing versus necessarily giving things a name. You want to spell out the behavior, so try to block these what's going on. Family Bridges, so you have Randy Rand retired about 3 years ago and handed it over to a Canadian woman named Yvonne Parnell, and now she's the one that's running Family Bridges. There are other organizations. There's one named Linda Gottlieb and another one named Steinberg that run different organizations. I will tell you this, no parent, I don't care if you feel like your child will not talk with you at all, there is a better way. Please do not do this to your child. Please do not. You do not love them if you want to put them through these programs. You don't really. You really don't. And there has got to be a better way. And there is a better way. Matter of fact, I got to meet a mother who everybody told her to put her children in a reunification camp. And she was even asked to speak at one of their seminars. And because they didn't know her position, and she was a Trojan horse, and she went in and she goes, I refuse to put my kids in this and force them into this, force them to love me. And sure enough, she got her kids back. She won them over, and she was able to, now she has a fully restored relationship with her children, but she did it without this program, so the children are not damaged and they don't hate her and there's not bitterness. And that's not, the government should not be involved in that, enforce that.
Yeah, there's the easy way is not the right way most of the time.
right most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, what did Ronald Reagan say? The most fearful statement he ever heard was, I'm here, I'm with the government and I'm here to help.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You can take drugs, you can take, outside measures, you can do whatever you want for the easiest option, but at the end of the day, it never lasts and it never works.
Yeah.
That's the reason we're called to read our Bible daily.
Right.
Pick up your cross daily.
Daily.
Yep.
Daily bread.
Yep.
Daily. Yeah, it's daily.
A huge thank you to Flint Heating and Cooling for their partnership with 1334 and this podcast. They do everything, heating and cooling, for air conditioners to commercial units, ice makers, everything. If you need help, give them a call. So in the end, how did this end up fully affecting your family?
Well, I knew it was supernatural and divine by everything that was going on, that because God was using this ugliness to build us all differently. When we went to court that day, when everything was ruled upon and the boys were taken that day, it was in the 7th year, which they had not seen their biological mother in 7 years because of the court system and everything being tied up. And it was on the 7th year. It was in the 7th month. It was on July, and it was on the 7th day, and it was on the older son's 17th birthday. And I felt like the Lord was telling me that those are 4 sevens, and 7 meaning complete, and that your seasons are all complete. What you have been through has now ended. We're going into a new season. And boy, did we go into a new season. It was horrific. It was awful. But it has rebuilt us all into being something completely different. My marriage is different. I'm a completely different individual than I was 4 years ago. God built it brick by brick. The boys are still in their restoration of healing and trying to figure some stuff out. It's all like we're on a journey. But so that ended.
What did it cost you guys?
It cost us, I think, in those 3 years, it cost us at least about $700,000, and we didn't even get the kids. But it was an attempt to really try to completely financially ruin us. I mean, that is the ultimate goal of family court. I watch it in every case. And I remember on the stand, I said, I called it an incestuous bed. Like the court professionals and the counselors and the guardians, they're all friends. They're all friends. They go to parties. They sit in hot tubs with each other. They're all buds. They all refer each other. So it's just one big incestuous bed. That and that comment didn't go over real well with the judge, but it's true. I was reading the room, and it's true. It cost us an absolute fortune. God is restoring that slowly, but yes, it was horrible during that time. Another one of the overreach is the people don't understand that these things are going on hidden. The reason why they've never heard about this is because judges will seal the records and then gag the parties. And our judge gagged my husband, and then she gagged me, and it was considered an illegal gag order. I'm not even a party to the case. I was just a step parent. And when I broke that gag order because I was speaking out against what was going on, and she issued me to 10 months in jail. I have not even had as much as jaywalking ticket in my life. And so we had to fight that. I appealed that, which, by the way, appealing is so expensive. But I appealed it and won. And then the Supreme Court of Georgia wrote 3 pages about me without any asking or prompting, and basically was telling the judge, you're on thin ice, and this is extreme overreach, and this can now be used as, I don't know if it's exactly case law, but it can help other cases who are the step parents are gagged. But that alone, my appeal alone, and the whole process cost about $150,000. And I remember telling my attorney, I said, what about the poor single mom? I mean, we should all have our constitutional rights. We've already been given them. And so, but I have to fight for them. Family court, you do not receive, there's no due process. None. We think, oh, we're going to hear about it if this, no, judges throw out evidence. They don't have, an evidentiary hearing. We have got to enforce evidentiary hearings when it comes to a custody switch. And these judges are just rogue and making these decisions left and right without evidentiary hearings. And it is a disaster. But, yeah, so I remember I lost about 8 constitutional rights in the process. And I'm not special or different than or unique in any friends' cases at all. It was the norm. It's the norm. It's just that I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
And, God has given me a platform for it. So I want to use whatever He has given me.
Absolutely. If a parent listening today feels like they're fighting for their child's safety and doesn't know where to turn, what's the first thing you'd have them do?
Record as much evidence as possible, because otherwise it's going to come back in your face and you can be retaliated against and lose the child completely. Unless your evidence is overwhelming and you have physical evidence of it and you have like a lot hard drives. I mean, it takes a dumpster of evidence to get this over the, otherwise you're putting yourself and your child in more harm's way. I'm disgusted saying this out loud. I'm disgusted because I want to tell them, well, they need to act and they need to do this, but I'm telling you, I'm watching the system and I'm watching children be removed and put with their abusive parent full time. And the other parent is being treated as the criminal. I'm seeing it on the daily. And so unless the evidence is just unbelievable, be cautionary. Be cautionary.
I do work with an organization called Free Indeed. Mm-hmm. They do, they help women and children out of human trafficking.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And abusive cases like that. And I know I've spoken with them and they've had to deal with, because a lot of what they do is get these people to safe houses all across the country. And they have had to deal with court and go through this situation over and over and over again. Yeah.
And it's really gross, the amount of evidence you have to prove. Mm-hmm. And there's some slimy, unethical attorneys out there that'll take this and twist it, and I do not know how they sleep at night. To not protect our victims, to not protect our children. But it's happening. It's very real. Very real.
Well, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.